Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Krishna Savitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Dadati Kapadantikam Vansha Kalpataruyasya Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first, the sound is good. Yeah, everybody can hear. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Juna Prabhu, thank you so much. Serving Prabhupada's lotus feet for over 50 years. Remember Raghunath, many years, no, a couple of years, maybe 5 years ago, he took a tour to Mayapur. And he said how excited he was to see all the advanced devotees. And then I asked him, well, not that I was questioning it, but I said, like who? And he mentioned someone that I wouldn't have expected at all, who was kind of more, Raghunath's really progressive, and this person was cloistered. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, serving for 50 years, 52 years, it's just not ordinary. And so I'd like to thank Arjuna Prabhu for coming. And Gosharan, thank you. Brahmachari, that's also not ordinary in the modern age, and to be a real one. And he's, and of course, Jai Jagannath. I kind of invited him in Colombia, and I said, well, I'm going to be sitting on a big seat, and it's, like this. He said, no, I like Guru worship. So it's nice. And you're kind of new here, but somehow she's rivaling Gail now as my most faithful listener. So she's there. And Amala Bhakta's friend, Harini, came from France. So kind of welcome to the community. And everybody else who I remember. My best friend, Henry, is here. My best friend. Henry, he gave me the mercy of Jamuna, because Jamuna used to stay at his house for 2 years. And I'll never forget the oatmeal she made that morning. and just looking at that board where she had her different pots, and she actually drew, this is where this pot goes, and you still had that. And today is also the appearance day of Srila Dhanurdhara Swami. And it's a real appearance. I just leaving to India early, so yeah. But Yadanath Prabhu, his disciple, and that was when, Henry, he couldn't have someone he revered more than His Holiness Dhanurdhara Swami, who also stayed in his house and visited him many times. So it's just such a great group of people that are coming here. Rachel, also welcome here. Yeah. Rachel's now managing wisdom of the sages. And what did she tell me? She used to be a nuclear engineer and managing hundreds of people and battleships and things like that. And wisdom of sages, she said, he doesn't mind, said, managing Raghunath was more difficult. And haven't seen Dinabandhu in a while, that's nice. And so many nice people here after so long, great. I'm trying to figure out where I should start. Of course, Mayapur Chandra and his family, I've stayed over there the last 2 days. I often went to their place, and it's just so nice to just walk outside and see downstairs at 7:30 to 8:30 the family, because there's many people living together studying Bhagavatam and having the full worship during the day. So and it's nice. If you want to talk about unity and diversity, there's 5 brothers, and they all have different gurus in ISKCON. So one recently got initiated by Kadambakhananda Swami, now Madhavendra Puri. So I said, oh, Madhavendra Puri, because my friend Jayanta is going to be here. And you know who Jayanta is? Because he also took initiation from Kadambakhananda Swami. And he said, oh, yeah, he was at my initiation, that old man. And I just thought, wait a second, that's my friend. that means I'm an old man too. And I kind of never thought of it that way. But it's true. And what that makes you think also is, I wrote an article called Decade of Tears. I don't know what happened. COVID had a certain black hole time warp that all of a sudden you miss so many years of your life and you wake up. When did I become 72? And but then it also kind of honed in on me a very important point that we have to more and more concentrate on there's Vyasti Guru and Samasti Guru. Vyasti Guru is the individual person. And Samasti Guru means Krishna and the potency of Krishna that comes through that person when you have a relationship. And you have to really more and more focus on that potency, just like we do with Prabhupada. Of course, he's the individual, but what he gives. And then the other brother, who will take initiation from Sachinandana Swami Manish, then he's like, doctor, so he's here, and he kind of looked here. He gave me kind of coming attractions, but didn't ruin it at all. He just said, oh, it's golden. It's golden. So, okay. So, but he said a nice thing that I think is so essential to understand now. He said, then you can offer it to Prabhupada. And that's really, because here I'm kind of, sitting on this seat, and it's kind of an inconsistency that you have to resolve. Just like Lord Chaitanya, when he was taking instructions from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he did that to preach to him. But the first thing he said, hey, instruct me. The first thing Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, you're a Vaishnav. That's supposed to be humble and a blade of grass. I'll say it in my own language. Why the hell you took sannyas? Why you took sannyas? That respect and honor. What to speak of sannyas than guru. But honestly, it's Vyasa-puja. It's worshiping it's worshiping a person, but it's worshiping a principle. And that principle should be honored. And this is bhakti. We honor things with love. What does bhakti mean? It means flowers and it means food. And we offer that honor to that principle. The principle that somehow or other knowledge is carried down. And it's carried down unchanged. Evam parampara praptam. One time, this sannyasi was preaching in Iran, and he came to see Prabhupada. And he was a yoga teacher too. And he was preaching in the court of the Shah of Iran, the richest man in the world. And he even brought the daughter of the Shah of Iran to the Krishna Balaram Mandir. So when Prabhupada saw him, Prabhupada said, you are Raja Rishi. It means a king and a saint. It gives saintly kings, because he was like preaching on that level. And then he said, Evam para para praptam, imam rajarshio vidahu, that it's carried down. And Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam is a very, very important point in the purport and in the verses. When Sutta Goswami is telling the sages of Naimisharanya that I'm going to speak the Bhagavatam to you, he said, Yataditam yatamati. I was there and I heard it, and I'm going to give it to you. And they became very, very excited. But why did they become excited? And Prabhupada explains why they became excited. Because who was going to explain it to them had realization. And Prabhupada gives a very, very beautiful, simple definition of realization. Realization means the ability to communicate. And I explained that many, many times. What communication means that you understand this subject so deeply that you can communicate it to your audience, who speaks and understands a different language, even in your own language. Because we don't, times change, and so that's what Vyasa means. What did Vyasadeva mean? He is, Deva means editor. Vyasa means editor. He's the godly editor. And what did he do? He took these Vedas and then he tried to communicate them, looking at the audience and how they understand. So he took the one Veda and he divided it into four. I once gave an analogy about that Gauranga Prabhu from Chopati was there. And he was the one, he really liked that. And this is kind of like an Indian analogy. He took why did he divide the Vedas into four? I said it's like a mother, an Indian mother who's feeding their little child a chapati. They break into little pieces, so it's digestible. So he broke the one Veda into four, and then saw the people still couldn't understand, but just meditate on realization and compassion. He's trying to communicate that because knowledge is so important. If you don't have knowledge, you don't know what to do. And that's our whole problem. Prabhupada said, what's the difference between a human being and an animal? A human being can ask the question, why I am suffering. And why is that so important? Because you have to ask them, what did I do wrong? Then you have to ask, what should I be doing? Then you have to ask, who am I? Because all suffering is due to ignorance. Because you're acting against your nature. So knowledge is so important. You can't be a devotee unless you have some knowledge. Otherwise, you'll have a misunderstanding about God. You'll think that God is impersonal, or God is material, or God doesn't exist. So look what Vyasadeva did and why we honor him through the disciplic succession. He realized it, and then it's so difficult because he's not just communicating it to a person, he's communicating it to a particular age. So it's a significant thing. It's a particular age. Now it's Kali Yuga. It's people are unqualified. So how to communicate that? So what does he do? He divides it into 4. Still doesn't think the people gets it. So what does he do? He tells it in story form, the Mahabharata. Still kind of looking at the audience. And then what does he do? Then he codifies the knowledge in the Vedanta Sutra. And then what does he do? Then the Bhagavatam is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is the summary of the Vedas or the essence of the Vedas. So that principle, yeah. I see Jamuna Jaya here, and I was in the Bhakti Center when she first asked for initiation. And then I asked the obvious question, why me? And she said, because you talk to me. You speak my language. So that's Vyasa-puja. It's how that's carried it down by people who take that knowledge, apply it, and realize it. And then we give special honor to Prabhupada. I gave the example that I remember one time there was this young man, and his father was like the Prabhupada Anuga, Ritvik on steroids. But he gave his son something, really. He gave his son Prabhupada. But the part of Prabhupada he didn't give is the disciplic succession. But it was something beautiful. Like Jayadvaita Maharaj wrote 2 articles where the Ritviks went wrong and where they went right. Where they went right is Prabhupada. So he couldn't decide. And it was like either tomorrow or not, take not from me, from someone else, take initiation. And I thought of an analogy that helps him. I said that the guru doesn't obscure Prabhupada. It's like glasses. If you put it is the mercy of Prabhupada. And I remember I was just in Kali Shamasham Vijay, and he gave a really nice seminar on prayer, on how to transcreate the prayer, so that you can take I'm not going to give the seminar, I don't remember all of it, but it was very, very powerful. And we did it on Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja. With he gave a class on Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja. And just to kind of think of the gratitude that you have, rather than just offering flowers, but think of the gratitude and picture that gratitude, and then have that with the words. So I think that's also a good principle today. Just actually looking at all this, and then the gratitude. And what's the gratitude for? For Prabhupada and those who can present Prabhupada. It's not how should we be represent them? We have to represent them. That's what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said. He said there's the person sitting on the seat. This is what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, how he felt sitting on the seat. All the audience have accepted ordinary seats. I alone have been provided with a lofty seat. All are being told in effect, do have a look at a big animal from the zoo gardens. What arrogance, so foolish, so wicked. Have you ever seen such a big brute? Garlands of flowers have been put around his neck. What laudations, what bombastic, long-drawn, and hyperbolic adjectives. And how complacent he is, listening to the praise of his own achievements. How intently, with his own ears. He alone evidently feels delighted in mind. Is he not acting in plain violation of the teachings of Mahaprabhu? Can such a big brute, so selfish and insolent, be ever reclaimed from brutishness? You might as well read on. It's somehow, when there's good writing like this, even if you speak it, it kind of can be heard. So he says, I happen to be one of the greatest fools. No one offers me good advice on account of my arrogance, insomuch as nobody sends me. I place my case before Mahaprabhu himself. The thought occurred to me that I would make over the charge of myself to him and see what he advised me to do. Then Sri Chaitanya Dev said to me, whomsoever thou meetest, instruct him regarding Krishna. By my command, being Guru, deliver this land. In this thou wilt not be obstructed by the current of the world. Thou wilt have my company once again at this place. And then in these then Bhakti Siddhanta said, in these verses is found the proper explanation of the apparent inconsistency noticed above. He whose only teaching is humility, greater than a blade of grass, said, by my command, be Guru, save this land. In this instant, Mahaprabhu himself has given the command. His command being, perform the duty of Guru, even as I do it myself. Also convey this command to whomsoever you chance to meet. Chaitanya Dev says, tell them these words. By my command, being Guru, save this land, deliver the people from this foolishness. Now, whosoever happens to hear these words would naturally protest with palms joined. But I am really a great sinner. How can I be Guru? You are Godhead himself, the teacher of the world. You can be Guru. To this Mahaprabhu replies, do not practice the craft of Guru for the purpose of injuring others through malice. Do not adopt the trade of Guru in order to get immersed in the slough of this world. But if you can indeed be my guileless servant, you will be endowed with my power. Then you need not fear. It's a great article. Just I thought I would print it out. But so I was talking about what Jai said to create. So think of the gratitude of the things that came down to us by the mercy of Prabhupada and the teachers who represent them, and how you will do that to others. And think of the gratitude. I'm so happy to see my friend Henry here. And he always tells me how much he came all the way from Washington because he said he's also competing with Gail for the longest standing member of my, he's there on every class there. And you know, he feels grateful. He feels grateful. He's dedicated to Prabhupada, but he feels grateful that this is coming through the different people. He listens to Zoom on the Bhagavatam and getting that. He's not feeling that this is distancing from Prabhupada. It's making him more energized in his mission. And what are we grateful for in terms of Srila Prabhupada? There's a verse, Nama Shreshtam. What's the best thing? The holy name. Manumapi, Sachiputram, Atra Sarupam, Rupam, Tasyagrajam, Uruparim, Matara Gostava Tim, Radha Kundam, Girivaramaho, Radhika Madhavasam, Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripya Tamnatosdi. All these wonderful things. So let's feel grateful on this day for the disciplic succession, which by Prabhupada's mercy continues. And I remember there was one, what was your relationship with Donna Kaylee, Jai Jagannath? Like kind of like a mentor, right? I mean, that lady in Chicago?
Yeah, she's kind of one of my mentors.
Special person. And she wrote this article on Guru that I think is so important to understand. And she said, I think she was an electrical engineer before, but she said, when you plug in, then there's a current of electricity. So that plugging in is your commitment. Your commitment, what's your commitment to? It's not just a person, it's character. It's commitment. There is an absolute truth. There's God, there's Krishna, that's an absolute truth. And that absolute truth is carried down in the Vedas. And there are people that represent them. I will follow that truth and live my life by that truth. That's that kind of commitment. And then that plugs it in, and then there's a line. And I think it's especially relevant in the modern day, where it's not just a guru in a village and people travel and move on and Zoom and internet and so many Vaishnavas. But once that's connected, then you can plug in. That same energy may come somewhere else for you. That's called Siksha Guru. And it's an important principle. And, Prabhupada's not just a historical personality. You may develop through his books a special relationship with him. So this principle is so, so honored. And we worship. Worship means love. We turn towards Krishna by love. We turn towards Krishna and we love and we offer respect. And we think of the community it's edifying for me. I'm a sannyasi, but I have certain samskaras. And one samskara is I don't like to travel. So I wound up either staying in Vrindavan or staying here. And as a result, connected with so many people. And it's nice to see them still around. And many of them, as their children are getting older, I know I got at least 2 or 3 things here. I couldn't come today because of the soccer game. My kids. I'm sorry, but if you have it on Sunday, I can come. And what a sacrifice Kishori made to come here. But yeah, and just one other kind of realization, just kind of I always do this thing is that we're in the center of this, and this is called ignorance. And due to that ignorance, we can't feel our connection with God. And that's the priyojana. Because when you actually understand God and know God, you feel God, and you feel that energy of prema or love, that's, God is merciful. And in reality, there's pleasure, and that it's the ultimate pleasure. And the way that's removed, I explained that many times, is by humility. Because what does this mean? It means I am superior. I want to be the enjoyer and control. I don't want love. I want to enjoy. I want to control, and I want to have that sense of superiority. And somehow or other, this just doesn't work. You can go to the highest position in the world, and you'll still be unhappy because it's not happiness. Happiness is love and universal love. So what Vyasa-puja means is the principle of opening a space in that cloud so you can feel that love. But it has to be that humility. And what's that humility? The humility is there is an absolute truth. And I gave this, it's something I say, higher than my opinions, higher than my desires is not the absolute reality. My opinions are not the absolute reality. There's an absolute truth. And I'm seeking for it. And I want to follow it. That's character. And that opens. And that opens. And what especially opens it? Tara Madhye Sarvashreshte Nama Sankirtan Nira Aparade Poya Paya Premadhan. the holy name. And therefore, what you get in that disciplic succession is you get that holy name, which is Krishna. And what's getting the holy name mean? It just doesn't mean the mantras and the syllables. It means the life and attitude in approaching that holy name, so that the person of the holy name reveals himself to you. It's just like you can see a person, if they're a stranger, do you really see and understand and know the person? The person is their love, and it's revealed in love. So when you make that commitment to Krishna and chant in that way, it really opens up and then you feel it. You came to Krishna-katha because you feel it. And you have to keep that open with that attitude. I want the truth. I follow the truth. And I'll take the guidance of one who's guiding me in that truth. Because that's happiness. And then hopefully one day, when there's no selfishness in your heart, the whole cloud will be gone. And then that's called Shuddhanam. Then you'll actually feel completely. So that's the objective and that's the goal. And let's honor that goal. And that's what we're doing today. And that's what our gratitude is about. Because as bad as the world is, I'll never forget the class that Vyasa-puja Swami gave in Mayapur. You know, he's kind of honesty personified. You know, a few people that are over 60 will understand this. The Joe Friday of this guy. Dragnet. Just the facts. It's an old show. There's a detective we used to like. And his whole thing was, man, it was just the facts. So Jagrat, just the facts. So he was a little bit upset because he doesn't like hypocrisy. He was upset about everything. So they asked him to give Bhagavatam class. And I revere him because he's thoroughly honest. Thoroughly honest. It's very hard to find. And thoroughly honest people get upset when things are not honest. So he was really upset. So he sat on the seat. They asked him to give class. He chanted Jaya Radha Madhava, put down the kartals, and this was his class. This temporary material world is full of suffering. Take shelter of the holy name of Krishna as your only business. Any questions? Really, I mean, if we want to get into what's happening in the world, it's scary. It's scary from the right. It's scary from the left. It's scary in between. You know, there was this lady in Auschwitz. Her name is Itti Hellison. And somehow or other, she became like self-realized. She also gave a mantra that's very powerful to us. When you have an inner life, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. So there really has to be an inspiration for inner life, and that inner life is the holy name, and it works. We have to put ourselves, we have to give some time and make a plan, and the knowledge and the teachings and the community and all this, it's for that purpose. It's for that purpose. Okay, now, Satyaraj Prabhu Ki, Haribol. Okay, we give him a chair. You came just in time, Satyaraj. Another very close friend of mine. Honored that he's here. Where John Prabhu said that there's no one in Hare Krishna movement that has done as much to establish the authenticity of Srila Prabhupada in academia. Okay, now I was going to explain what we're going to do now is okay, Missy, I'll call you up in just a second. It's really hard to find a time to initiate people. So you got to find a temple, you got to find so much. And I go by astrology and proper dates and so many things. But Missy has been waiting for a few years patiently. And then I thought, I generally don't, well, it's a picture?
Yeah.
Oh, you're working for Rati. As long as you're working for Rati. Okay. So I thought that it would really be a nice time here. It fits in with the mood. It's a time where the whole community can be here to blessing. So instead of the fire, we'll have your hearts. And what I'll do, and this is what Prabhupada used to do, he used to chant on the beads at the initiation. So whether you're chanting or meditating or whatever you're doing, this is a time for you all to go internal and pray for the mercy of the holy name. So I'll begin chanting, and after I chant, I'll call her up. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Okay, where is Missy? Come on up. Okay, a little closer. Okay, that's good. What are the 4 principles?
I vow to not take intoxicants, to eat meat, to have illicit sex, to gamble. I vow to chant 16 rounds every day.
Okay. Your name is Madhurya Radhika Devi Dasi.
Madhurya Devi Dasi. Wow.
Now I'll just take one drink, okay? There's only 3 people in my congregation, besides myself, who speak proper English. Sri Rupa, Jai Subhadra, and Missy. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Where's Dina Bandhu? Why don't you just 5 minutes of kirtan? I'm going to go to the bathroom and people can chant, and then we'll be back and then have the offerings. Okay, and where is he that plays the mridanga so nicely? Where is he? Yeah, okay. And then we'll have the offerings and then we'll continue. I'll be back in a second. Everybody sit, don't wander off, just have nice kirtan.